There is an interesting contradiction in Canada's latest immigration numbers. The economic stream is behind target, but family class immigration is moving faster. According to TimesXP's report, Canada admitted around 45,100 family class permanent residents in the first half of 2026. Now, that includes spouse, dependent children, and parents or grandparents. And this tells us something about Canada's current immigration priorities. If you are already a permanent resident or a citizen, bringing your immediate family together, it can become an increasingly important part of the immigration system altogether. Sponsorship of spouse, for example, that remains a major pathway. But parents and grandparents face a very different reality tonight. Well, the report says the parents and grandparents program has been heavily restricted, with the government limiting new intake and managing existing applications through annual caps. So families are looking for alternative now. And one of those alternative is the super visa. Unlike permanent residents, the super visa is designed to allow eligible parents and grandparents to visit Canada for extended period of time. But it does not give them permanent resident status. It does not turn into citizenship automatically, and that's an important point to note. There are financial and medical requirements that you need to provide. So families are increasingly having to make a difficult choice here. Do we wait for PR pathway that may take years now? Or do we use a temporary pathway to keep parents very close while the family continues living and working in Canada? And this is where immigration becomes extremely personal. Why? Because when governments talk about family class, well, they are talking about numbers here. But families, they are talking about birthdays. They are talking about festivals, children growing up, grandparents getting older, parents who are living alone, and that too thousands of kilometers away. So ladies and gentlemen, a change in immigration policy, it can have an emotional impact that never appears in a spreadsheet or any sort of record. And the Canadian government is also trying to solve another problem here. It wants workers who are already contributing to the economy, people already working, already paying the taxes, already living in communities. And that is why the system increasingly favors in Canada experience. And yes, that leads us directly to one of the biggest questions for Indian professionals. What happens if you are outside Canada? Because Canada may be welcoming the family members and experienced workers already inside the country, but for someone who is sitting in India, the express entry door, that is becoming much harder to reach. Well, for years, express entry was one of the most attractive immigration systems in the world. You could be in India, you could have a master's degree, you could have strong English, you could have several years of work experience, and you could compete for permanent residence without first moving to Canada. But according to the report, that calculation has changed dramatically. The CRS cutoff for many general and Canadian experience class, that draw, well, it has remained high, and that too extremely high. And that creates a problem for overseas applicants. Why? Let's talk about that. Can you imagine somebody sitting in Bengaluru? They have a master's degree. They have several years of technology experience. Their English scores are excellent. Their CRS score, it may land somewhere around the high 400s. But if invitations are going to candidates with scores above 500, the person remains stuck. Not because they are unqualified, not at all, but because the competition has changed now. And Canada has another level here. Well, Canadian work experience. A person already living and working in Canada can become much more competitive. And then there is provincial nominee program. Basically, a nomination can dramatically increase a candidate's CRS score. And yes, then comes the French language route. According to the report, French language draws have produced much lower CRS cutoff than many general draws. So suddenly, language is no longer simply a communication skill. It can become an immigration strategy. And this creates a new roadmap for overseas applicants. Improve French. Look at provincial nomination. Consider an intra-company transfer. Explore regional program and look far beyond Toronto and Vancouver. Let me make it easy for you. Stop waiting for the old system to come back. The system is changing, and if your strategy depends entirely on the general express entry draw, you could spend years waiting. And yes, that does not mean Canada has closed its door. It means the doors have become more specified now. The people who understands where those doors are may have a better chances of getting through them. And yes, there is one final Canadian story tonight that puts all of this into perspective. Because India remains Canada's largest source country, but the percentage is now falling. The numbers are changing, and the old Punjabi Canada migration love story, it is definitely entering a new phase.